Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to do it yourself a skull lamp with crystals and stones. This is using stained glass style methods. Now this is a small one and I want to start off with creating an armature. This is something to work off of. So I bought a styrofoam skull and it was one of those flocked ones. I had to take the flocking off of it. So I got this styrofoam skull and now I am exaggerating the cutout. So I want to be sure that after I make the mold that I have a good shape to work off of. So I want to have set in eyes, so I'm just making the eye sockets a little bit bigger, and I want to add teeth on the styrofoam has teeth already on it, but I want to be able to add stones for the teeth. So I cut out that area where the teeth would be. And then I decided that I wanted to exaggerate other areas. So I made nice shape for the mouth. And then I decided that above the eyebrows, I want to cut in and make that area a little exaggerated. And on the sides of the cheeks, I wanted to add areas there for the jowls and the cheeks. Now, even though I did all this, it still didn't come out terribly exaggerated in the final shape. So you really need to do this, because if I didn't do any of this ahead of time, it would just end up being a complete ball. So you can start off with any styrofoam shape you want. Styrofoam is just easy to work off of, and then carve what you want for your final mold. Using an X-Acto knife made it really easy to do the carving. As you can see, you can lop off a section here and there pretty easily. I even cut into the nose cavity because I wanted to be able to put a stone in that area also. I decided the mouth needed to be a bit bigger, so I carved an area for that even more. Now, after making a silicone mold, you want to fill it with stuffing to give it some structure to hold the stones as you're soldering. So I cut the area that my silicone mold was connected to. I made a cut in that with a knife, and now I have my silicone mold. Now I do have videos on how to make a silicone mold, and I will add those to the description page so that you'll know how to do that. But see, I'm using like polyfill, like the kind of stuff you would use like to fill a pillow or fill a stuffed doll or something. And I'm stuffing it as hard as I can so that I'm going to have something to work off of. Now I'm going to add the stones and the crystals. So I have, like for the eyes, I'm using those flattened marbles that you can buy. They're opaque. I use black opaque ones for the eyes themselves because I wanted them to be opaque. For the rest of the stones, I use translucent stones, different ones you can get on different websites. I will also add in the description little advices of what you might want to use for the stones. And you can use whatever color you want to. These stones are slightly green. They ended up not looking all that green at night with the lights going through them, but during the day, when the light's only showing from the outside, they looked slightly green, because that's kind of what I wanted, to have kind of a greenish skeleton. Now, the good thing about using small stones or small pieces of glass on a three-dimensional sculpture like this is that since the stones are so little, you can get a nice three-dimensional look to it. So you don't have to worry about cutting flat glass into small shapes to go around a curve or something. These right here are small glass pieces that are tumbled. I bought them already tumbled. And I foil all this stuff with black backed foil that is like I buy the 7/32 wide foil, and then that you use for normal stained glass work. And then I cut that lengthwise into, for something like this, into 4 different strips. So it's a very thin strip of foil that I would use to go around the stones or the glass. So I wanted around the eyes to shine red once it's lit on the inside. And so that's why I have translucent red stones around the eyes. And then the middle of the eye is opaque glass, flat marble type stuff that you can get. There's called like dragon tears or flat marbles or flat cabochons. They're called different things on different sites, so you might have to Google different terms to get what you want. And the glass, the flat glass globs come. They also, flat glass globs are sometimes called. They come in different diameters. So these are actually like kind of bigger ones. These are a little bigger than 3/4 of an inch diameter, but you can get them in different sizes. They come from like 1/2 inch to like 1.25 inches. Most of them are 3/4 of an inch, but they do come in a variety. And I like to have a bunch of different colors and different sizes. And I like to foil them all ahead of time so that when I'm deciding to make a project, I can just go, I think I'll just grab this container of glass or stones for this project. Now, see, the good thing about using a silicone mold to work off of, like I made earlier, is that you can put pins right into the silicone mold and hold it together. And because it's silicone, it won't melt when you heat it up with the solder. So if I went just on my styrofoam skull, if I just worked off of that, the heat, if I got any heat too close to the styrofoam itself, it would have melted the styrofoam. And that's not very healthy for you to smell that, for the fumes. And also it would kind of distort the shape of your mold, and then that wouldn't work very well. So if you use silicone, also I made like a balloon type of mold with the silicone so that I can remove the mold easily afterwards. So if I use styrofoam as a mold, an armature to work off of, I would only be able to do one area, and then I would have to remove that mold from the skull before I continued, because, you know, when I was done, I wouldn't be able to remove the styrofoam, obviously, because it's stiff. So there's a good advantage to making a silicone mold, because you can just kind of pull out the stuffing and then pull out the mold afterwards, and you have you have your nice art left over. Now right now I'm working on the teeth. I'm using some silicone washers that's what that orange half circle is. I cut the washer to kind of like hold the tooth in place while I am waiting to solder it. Now for teeth, I'm using white clear quartz, like they're kind of jagged shards. They're longer than just a piece of stone, and I obviously foiled them also. And as you can see, they're kind of neat because they have different facets on them, so they're not tumbled really. They're kind of sharp on the edges a little bit, so the light will reflect off of them differently than it does on the tumbled stones. So the teeth will end up showing up differently and make a nice contrast to the rounder tumbled stones. So with straight pins and washers, I can prop what I want to solder in place before I am soldering. And you notice that I'm wearing these pink gloves. Well, those are actually silicone gloves. And the good thing about using silicone gloves is, besides keeping the stuff off your hands, they also help protect your hands from heat, because silicone does kind of is heat resistant. So to a certain point, if you get the heat a little bit close to your fingers, like when you're holding something like I was right then, it won't hurt because it won't heat up and burn you. So that really helps. I mean, no, it's not like perfect, but it is better than just having your bare skin against something that you're heating up. Right now, I took it off the mold temporarily, and I'm back soldering just to make sure that I don't have any gaps in my project. I don't have any drools of solder falling from one end to the other, and you know, like covering up the stones so that when you light the other side, you get this weird drool. And also soldering on both sides and kind of touching up as I go will help ensure that it's sturdy. So again, I'm taking off the big globs, and I'm also just touching up where it needs to be. And you can tell on my table there that I'm working, I have some little globs of solder, and I can suck those up when I need to. Now I'm putting it, I washed it and put it back on my mold, and now I'm continuing. So if I'm going to stop for the day or for a while, I would like to wash the product so that it's easier and cleaner to work on. Right there, you can see that I have added like a string of different stones going from one side to the other to help hold everything together. The blue stuff that you can see, that's just, I think it's nitrile gloves that I use. You need to use some kind of plastic, nitrile, silicone, something to kind of hold the stuffing in place so that the stuffing doesn't get all icky and it's easy to pull out afterwards. And you can see that I kind of had to use some wires to help hold together the silicone in places, because it has holes in the back of it where I made the mold. And that's fine. I just got to remember to take those little wires that I have added. I got to take them off before I continue to solder, because they're going to be harder to remove when I want to take everything apart. So when I get close to one, I like to try to remember to take it off, or else I have to reach inside my my lamp when I'm done to pull it out. So right now I'm adding more stones to the back of this. Now it's amazing how many stones it takes to make one of these projects. This isn't that big a lamp, but it still took like tons of stones. So see, I had to take that wire off before I continued. So if you have a whole bunch of stones, you can just kind of pick and choose as you go. You can't really plan ahead what shape is going to go where, because like the stones don't work that way. They're all irregular shaped, and you can't like know exactly where they're going to go. Now they do come in, even if you buy all the same type of stone, they will have some variation to them, and I like to use that to my advantage. Now I'm going to add a hoop for the base. So I want this skull to sit on a table, and it's going to be lit on the inside. So I decided I'm going to have to add a hoop which is like a macrame hoop. It's a wire hoop that I have foiled all around the metal so that solder will take to it. So I'm going to use that hoop to as the base of it. So first of all, I decided to fill this poor hole in the top of his head. And as I was saying, you can use the different tones of the stones to your advantage. So like if you want a shadowed area of your, or a highlight, you can use dark or light stones for those areas on purpose. So right now I'm just going, okay, I have this little hole, like I gotta fill this hole up, so I'm trying to find stones that will fill the hole as much as possible, and any holes that are left I will have to fill up with solder if I can't find a stone to fit perfectly. Okay, so I have this hoop that I have that's I think it was like a 3-inch diameter hoop, and I'm using some pins to hold it temporarily in place while I'm adding stones to help attach the hoop area to the rest of my project. So it doesn't quite meet the stones yet, so I'm going to have to hold it while I'm going, okay, now I have one stone that's holding it to the hoop. Now I'm going to just go around the hoop area and add more stones so that this will stay together. So the reason why I wrapped the hoop with copper foil was so that it would solder to the stones. If I just use the metal, the alloy metal that it comes with, it's very hard to get the solder to adhere to that kind of metal that they usually come in. So I do, when I buy stuff that's already like metal that I want to use for my projects, I wrap them with foil. It's just so much easier. So you just wrap it with foil and then just press down on the foil so that it's like completely stuck to the metal, and then you can now solder to it and it stays together pretty good. Now, as I said in my other videos, make sure when you're doing any of these projects with either a metal wrapped wrapped hoop or little stones like this, if you're not going to wrap the stones with wide foil, or even if you're going to do that, remember you don't want to heat up the foil a lot because it will start losing its stickiness and it will drop the stone out. So once now and then you'll be working, even trying not to heat up your areas too much. You're just trying to heat the solder and slightly blend the solder into the foil. But if you heat it up too much, the stone is just going to fall right out and you're going to end up with a hole. So if that happens, yes, you can fix it. You can either add a lot more solder so the solder's like overlapping the stone so the solder itself is holding it in place, or you can just put a new stone in place of it. Take the foil out if you need to and put in a new stone, or you can take the stone out, clean the stone thoroughly, and that stickiness is kind of hard to get off. You might have to use some kind of Gooby Gone type of stuff to get the stick off, and then clean it with water and soap, and then refoil the stone if that's a stone you really want to use. Because if you don't replace it that way, you got to replace it with something. Now I'm going to remove the stuffing. So that was that glove that I took off, and you saw that I removed the stuffing and I pulled that silicone out. And now again, I'm going on the inside and I am knocking off any big pieces of solder that I see, and I'm also filling any holes that I see or any weakish parts. So this is my skull. It's all done. I even added little handles on the inside to attach it to something later if I want to. I'm adding patina. I usually use a spray bottle and spray it on because it's a good way to start. A three-dimensional object is kind of hard to patina if you're just going to scrub it on with a toothbrush. when I'm done, I'm done, and I'm very happy with this. It's a really cute, very small, nice skeleton for your Halloween decorations. And thanks for watching. And I will put some other videos that are a little bit longer and more thorough. This is just a quick little video on my baby skull. Bye-bye for now.